Hello, and welcome back to Broerman Farmstead. It's getting a little warmer out. It's about 40 degrees today, which is quite a difference from the single digits and sub-zero temperatures we've been battling over the last couple weeks. So I'm coming out here today to check all the livestock, including these baby chicks, and I'll show you how they've changed a lot in the last couple weeks. Come on. Well, as you can see, they're really starting to mess up this pen in here pretty good, but they're doing really good. I went and switched from using these small little plastic feeders when they first came in. They work great, but they're too big now and they're eating a lot of feed. I got these 15-pound feeders and I've been easily able to hold 12 pounds in each of them. And we're going through quite a bit now, and I also got them a bigger water. I'm gonna go ahead and get them new water and refill their feeders while I'm in here. And I'll just shut that for a little bit, that way I don't have to worry about any of them getting out or any of the cats getting into them. I've been trying to keep as close of a tab on how much food they're taking in and water, just to get a rough estimate of what it costs to actually raise these chickens up. 2, 3. So each scoop from this little scoop is roughly 1 pound. So it gives me a pretty good idea of how much feed they're consuming. That's 20 pounds of feed I just put in these. I don't know exactly what they've been eating today. I haven't ran the numbers on that. This isn't 1 day's worth of feed, don't get me wrong. This is probably about a day and a half or 2 days for sure. But these little girls, they're eating well and they seem to be growing pretty fast. I refilled their water. Now they got some nice new fresh water, another 5 gallons. We'll put their feed back in and let these beautiful little girls have their time to themselves again. Come on. There we go. I've had no issues keeping this brooder up to temperature. A couple of the nights we had it to where it was -4, -5 degrees out, and this thing was still 85 degrees in here for these chicks. I don't ever plan to have chickens in this early in the year, in January and February. Probably the earliest to ever be in the future be March. So hopefully we never have to worry about the temperatures that much, but I can at least trust that I can keep this brooder warm enough for chicks. I am interested to see how this works in the summer, and by the time I put a hoop over it, I'll probably have the exact opposite problem, which will be trying to keep it cool enough and not too hot. But I'm happy. I'm happy with how this thing has turned out. It's worked well. These chicks have grown a ton, and I mean a ton. We've had chickens before, and I've had them in a stock tank with a brooder lamp like you see half of everybody else do, and I had problems with pasty butt, and we had quite a few chicks die. I mean, I couldn't keep the heat up. I ended up buying a brooder heat plate, and that seemed to really help. So when I went and put this one together this year for these chicks, I really wanted to make sure I had good heat plates for them and could keep the air temperature fine. I've been thoroughly shocked that none of these chicks have needed any intervention. In the past, when I'd get chicks, it was almost guaranteed that I'd get chicks with pasty butt, and I'd have to wash their bottoms because their feces would stick to them because it's too hot underneath the brooding lamp because the rest of it's too cold, and it'd dry out and they'd need help. And not one chick in this group has needed help. The one that had a bad leg, it's still alive, and it's in here, and it's been in here for weeks, and it doesn't seem to be doing any worse than the rest of them. I mean, it might be a little bit smaller, but it's hanging in there. So 104 chicks, 104, and so far, not one lost. That's incredible. Can't expect that every time, but with the cold temperatures we've had and everything that these chicks have been through to get here and get to this point, I'm beyond impressed. I really do have to thank Myers Hatchery. I do think that they have got a good stock of chickens there and some good genetics, because these little suckers have been hardy. They've been able to weather this weather and take care of themselves, and it speaks volumes. It really does. The winter weather we had over the last couple weeks really wreaked havoc. I was having some issues with that water, that automatic water over there, and it was overflowing and put a lot of ice in here. But it's been working well, at least. All the calves have been drinking out of it pretty well. I do need to run a couple of them through in the next couple of days, check some things before I can pull this cattle chute out of here for quite a while. But with having this ice in here and all these colder temperatures, this bed pack has been frozen for a while. With how much water got underneath of it and how much these calves and heifers have pooped and peed in here over the last month, I'm afraid once it does thaw out the rest of the way, that we're going to have some major issues with this pen pack getting very wet. So I would definitely expect within the next week or so, if it keeps thawing out, that I'm probably going to take this pen pack out and put it on the compost pile and rebed the whole barn again. I want to keep this nice and dry for the cattle, because I know I wouldn't want to sleep and lay down in a really mucky, poopy area myself. There's something to say about pen pack and keeping it nice and high and deep in the winter for them, because it does create heat, and I do try to do that, but once it gets soupy and wet, I really try to get it out of there. That way they're not laying in a wet mess. It's one thing to have a deep, dry pen pack that can retain heat, and the microbe process in there is creating heat from the composting, and it's another thing when it's just wet. A couple weeks ago, I opened the gates up and I started letting the whole group out on this cornfield here that we picked this fall. Letting them walk out there, eat corn stalks, find whatever corn's is left out there, and they've definitely been enjoying it. One of the reasons I really let them out there was these two larger heifers in the group. Well, I think they need to lose a little weight for them to get pregnant. They've been eating too well, and I wouldn't mind them getting a little exercise on them and give them a chance to build a decent body condition to get pregnant with. So what I'm going to do, since this one part of the pen has got a lot of muck and slop in it, and until I can get in here with the tractor and clean it out, I'm going to throw another dozen or so bales down and bed it out a little bit better for them. That way it soaks up some of that moisture and gives them somewhere nice to lay. So I think throwing maybe 8-10 bales down should take care of my problem down there. It's going to take probably another couple days to a week of this warmer temperature to finally thaw out the inside of the barn. Well, all my helpers went out to that corn fodder since it got nice out this afternoon. But I can still spread this out for them and I guess let them finish the rest of it when they come back in. And when I say helpers, what I really mean is all the cattle. They're out enjoying that corn fodder, and I like to see them out there, and I know the neighbors do too. The amount of comments I've gotten over the years after putting a fence back up around some of the fields and letting cattle out, it's quite amazing. A lot of people notice it. Well, there you go. I've got it roughly all spread out. When the cattle come in, I'm sure they're gonna go crazy all over this stuff, and they'll spread out the rest with themselves. So this fall, I went and I did that project on the one side of the barn, redoing some walls and some gates, putting that water in. This barn is pretty old. I don't actually know the true age of the barn. It was at least redone, I believe, in I think 1949. One of the previous owners, before my grandparents bought the place, they actually went and put that tie stall barn up. And when they did that, they had actually renovated the big barn here and added this concrete in here. But the barn with this age is showing more wear and tear, and every year I've got a list of projects I want to do to this barn. And this year, one of them is going to be fixing that wall up the rest of the way. And I showed you guys back in that corner where the beam head's starting to fall down a little bit. And that's because the bottom sill board that's sitting on is rotted away. A good example of some other sill boards in the barn that have rotted away is this one here. You can see right there, there's still sill board and it's gone. Now, do I think that this specific spot in the barn will get attention this year? Possibly. But there's a lot of areas in this barn that's gonna need attention every year to get this back up into a really nice barn. And don't get me wrong, this barn is very nice and I like it a lot. I mean, I grew up having this barn here and I wouldn't want anything else to be here but this barn. Some people might say that, you know, it'd be best to tear this thing down and put a pole building up and use that instead, and you know, that might be right for them, but I love these old barns and I love my barn. I'm gonna do what I can, even if it might not be the most cost effective, to keep this barn around. It's gonna be redoing walls, putting new posts in, replacing rotted out wooden beams and walls as needed. I'd like to make sure that this barn stays here for not only just the next generation, but the generation after. So as some of you might have noticed in one of our last videos, the 4430 has a new rear glass. I ended up getting that from the local John Deere dealership. I got a new window seal to go with it and installed that. I've got a short little clip here of us putting that window in. I had a little bit of help to make sure that we didn't break it when we're putting it in. Man, doesn't that look nice? All right. I got two other little problems I'd like to address before I need this tractor a lot later this year. One of them is this radiator I put in last spring. Well, it sprung a leak. Right up under where the radiator was formed, along this formed edge right here. It leaked from there already this summer. And at this point, I really don't feel like pulling this radiator up. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna patch that radiator up and see if I can't get that to hold. A radiator like this is only gonna hold 7 pounds of pressure. So I should be able to patch that up and move this thing along. That way I'm not losing coolant every time I go to use it. Another little issue I started having when I was blowing snow the other day is I noticed my floor was getting really wet. Well, I just figured it was my shoes bringing snow into the tractor. Well, that wetness was pretty shiny and ended up being oil. Underneath the cowl here is the power steering lines and that power steering motor. And I haven't taken it off yet, but I have a good feeling that either one of those lines has a slight leak in it or the steering motor has an O-ring or something out. So I'm not going to show it here in this video, but over the next couple days, I'm going to have to take that thing apart and fix that up. But hey guys, that's it for today's video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We can do a lot here, but we can't grow this channel without your help. Thank you, and have a good day.